Come on, Church on the Hill. How's everybody doing this morning? Come on. Come on. Man, it is such a joy to get to serve here at Church on the Hill and serve you guys. We meet people all the time who are like, man, we've been praying for a church just like this. That's multi-ethnicity. That's multi-generational. Come on, we are a little slice of heaven. As Pastor Adam always likes to say, I'm serious, you guys are fighting for something unique, and that's something people are looking for. And so if you look to the people next to you and say, hey, you're a part of it, I'm a part of it, we're in it together. And so it's just a beautiful thing that we really get to be a part of. And I'm so honored that I get to serve here with you guys and just really be a part of what the Lord is doing here at Church on the Hill. If you got your Bibles, get them out and turn them on this morning. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. We're going to be in the 6th chapter of Matthew, the 33rd verse. We're in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. That's what it says right here in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. In case you didn't know where we're at, we're in the 6th chapter of Matthew, not 33rd verse. And so all my teachers know exactly what's happening here, those ADD kids. Here we go. It says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. One more time. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. And Jesus he's talking to the people, and right before this, to fully understand what's happening right here in chapter 6, you have to know what's going on right before this. Jesus is talking to these people, to a group of people, and they're worried just like anybody else would be about where they're going to live, what they're going to eat, what they're going to wear, all of those things. It seems that the things that we need to survive, shelter, fire, water, and food, right? And they're concerned about these things as they should be. And Jesus, he has this answer for them. And he tells them all of this right before here in chapter 6 of Matthew. And he tells them, he says, hey, look, the birds of the field and the air, they don't worry about what they're going to eat. They don't go and harvest grain and store it up in a barn somewhere. No way. The Lord feeds them. He says, how much more will I feed you? He says, how about the lilies of the field? They don't worry about what they're going to wear. They don't labor for their clothes. But even Solomon in all of his splendor isn't even dressed as one of these. He says, how much more will I take care of you? I provide shelter for everything. He says, how much more will I take care of you? And he tells them this. He says, don't worry about any of those things. He says, but seek first my kingdom and my righteousness, and everything else will be added unto you. He said, if you would go after me, if you would pursue me and my righteousness, then all of those things that you seem to worry about, all of that stuff will take care of itself. Everything else will just begin to line up into what that looks like. And as we're talking about, the title of today's message is Going All In. It's all in of what that looks like. A lot of times we have to have an all-in type of faith to get that, to seek his kingdom, to go after that, to not want to put our hands on exactly what it is that we want to do. We have to say, all right, Lord, I'm going after you. Lord, I'm going to seek first your kingdom and your righteousness, and you said that you would add everything else. So you know what? I'm not really going to worry about what kind of car I'm driving right now. Lord, I'm really not going to worry about what my house looks like right now. Lord, I'm really not going to, and this is the one I struggle with the most, what I'm going to eat right now. I'm already thinking about lunch right as I'm finishing up breakfast. I'm like, Lord, man, I want an elote tonight. It's like, oh, I'm texting Myrna, hey, we're going to Fuel City. Elote's on, right? She's like, yes, I like to eat. I like food. And I'm thinking about the next meal while I'm in the middle of my first meal. And so I like that. I say, you know what, Lord, I trust you. I trust you that somehow you're going to provide me with tacos de chicharrón y tripa tacos. Lord, you're going to have me carne asada. Lord, I trust you. I'm serving Church in the Hill. Lord, you see that. Provide me with your blessing of tacos, right? So it's like, Lord. But we have to have an all-in type mentality with doing this. Football season is upon us. Any football fans in the room? Yes. Any sinners that like the Cowboys? Anybody in the room? Oh, a few, my gosh. Y'all offensive lines look a little weak so far, and the season ain't even started yet. But I'm a huge football fan. We are a football house. My wife loves football just as much as I do. And so, man, when football season hits us for 16 weeks, man, we're tuned in. We love it. And at the end of football season, I kind of have withdrawals, right? I go back to ESPN, and I'm waiting for football highlights, and they're not there. And so I was flipping through one night. It's about 10:30 at night. We're decompressing after something, and I'm just flipping. And I go to ESPN, and I'm like on ESPN 9. Now, they have so many of them now. And as I get there, there's the World Series of Poker. I'm not a poker fan at all. And so I was like, man, how boring is this? I would hate to be the guy that's like an intern for commentary, and you have to commentate a poker game. That's just, it's like really boring. It was just, and he's got a spade. Ooh, look at the face of concentration. Ooh, that's a diamond. Right? I was like, what is the world is this? So boring. And I wouldn't have stayed on the channel had it not been for one individual. And I didn't know what his name was, so I Googled creepy poker player glasses man, and that's him. Had it not been for that guy, I didn't know who, I would have left. But this guy is sitting across the table, and he's just looking at people like that with these weird lizard glasses on. I was like, what is this guy doing? And he's sitting there, and there's like 3 guys left. And his name now is Fossil Man. That's what they call him, Fossil Man, because he collects dinosaur bones, right? So a very strange individual that was obviously pretty decent at poker. And he's sitting there, and he's sitting at the table to win $1 million. And he's sitting there, and I really don't know what's going on, but this guy's got me. I was like, man, this guy, I want his glasses. You know what I'm saying? I'm intrigued now to see what this guy does. And he's sitting there, he's just got this weird blank stare on his face, except for those weird demon eyes, and he's just sitting there. And they go in, and one guy folds, and so I was like, oh, okay, cool, so that guy quit. So there's only 2 guys left, the Fossil Man and somebody else. And so they're going in there, and I'm watching it for about the next 10 minutes as Fossil Man gets these cards, and he's looking at them, and the other guy gets his cards, and he's looking at them, and they're flipping cards, and Fossil Man's got a lot of pile of chips, and the other guy's got a lot of pile of chips, and all of a sudden, the commentator says in a very exciting voice, ladies and gentlemen, he's doing it. I was like, what is this? And he pushes all his chips in. He's going all in, right? He's going all in. And he pushes them in there, and he puts his cards down. The other guy looks at it, and they flip their cards over. And somehow he won. I don't know. He was playing Uno cards. He had Uno. He won. He was the winner. He won $1 million in that moment, $1 million. And he looks there with the same smug look on his face. You know, with those weird demon glasses on. And I started to think, man, a lot of times in our Christian walk, it's a very similar thing to that. See, in order to go all in, you have to fully believe in the hand that you're holding. You have to believe that the cards that are in your hand are something of value. You have to believe in it enough that you say, hey, man, look, these 2 cards that I got, these 5 cards that I got are worth so much. I'm willing to put everything that I have right now on the line, and I'm putting it all in. And a lot of times in our Christian walk, we look at what the Lord's dealt us, and we say, I don't have much worth to it. And so because of that, we say, hey, look, Lord, I'm not going to go all in for you. I'm not going to do that. And Jesus encounters 3 guys like this in Luke chapter 9. And in Luke chapter 9, the beginning, all throughout Luke chapter 9, it reads like a highlight reel of Jesus. It's awesome. As you go back and read it, Jesus feeds the 5,000. It's recorded in Luke chapter 9. The transfiguration where Jesus is there and Elijah and Moses appear, it's there in chapter 9. As Jesus heals a demon-possessed boy, it's there in Luke chapter 9. As Peter, as he comes to the revelation that Jesus is the Messiah, that's there in chapter 9. As Jesus asks his disciples, who do men say that I am? And they answer him, some say you're Elijah or a prophet of old. And Jesus looks at Peter and says, Peter, who do you say that I am? He says, I say that you are the Son of God, the Messiah. And Jesus tells him, man, upon that revelation right there, I'm going to build my church. And the gates of hell will not prevail against it. That's Luke chapter 9. All of that happens right there. Jesus' popularity is building. If he had an Instagram account, it'd be blowing up. His Snapchat, Twitter, it'd be going live, man. Hashtag Jesus Walks would be trending. It would just be going. He would just be going at it. And so because of that, in the day, he's building momentum, and people want to join the Jesus movement. People want to be a part of that. And at the end of Luke chapter 9, in verse 52, we run into 3 guys. In verse 57, we run into 3 guys. And they run across him on a very inconspicuous place. It says, as they were going along the road. It was no place of notoriety. It was nothing like that. Jesus is on his way somewhere else, and they're going along the road. And these 3 men approach Jesus, and this is the interaction with the first man. It says, they were going along the road. Someone said to him, being Jesus, I will follow you wherever you go. And in verse 58, Jesus said to him, the foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of God has nowhere to lay his head. He replies with him. The guy asks him a question, I will follow you wherever you go. He tells him that. He makes that proclamation to him. Jesus, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus doesn't say, all right, let's go. Sign the waiver. We got to make sure we get your $500 deposit for all places we're going to stay. He doesn't do anything like that. He doesn't say anything. He tells him, hey, look, bro, look at this. The foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. He saw something in that man. He said, let me tell you something. You're not willing to sacrifice what it takes to be on my team. You're not willing to give up your convenience of everything that it takes to be on Team Jesus. He tells him that. He said, hey, man, look, we don't live a life of convenience. These 5,000 people that we just fed, that was a miracle straight from my dad. Those 12 baskets that all my dudes walked away with, that's a miracle. He says, let me tell you something. When we go to a new city, we don't know where we're going to stay. We don't know where we're going to eat. The Father provides. The life that we live, man, it's just not for you. The man hadn't counted the cost. The second guy, they interact right here in verse 59. And he said to another, follow me. Jesus calls this guy. He calls out to him, follow me. If Jesus calls out to you, follow me. Oh my gosh, I'm there with it, right? And this is what happens in verse 59. He says, follow me. But he said to Jesus, he's replying back to him, permit me first to go and bury my father. But Jesus said to him, allow the dead to bury their own. But as for you, go and proclaim everywhere the kingdom of God. And see, this would seem like a really strange interaction. If Jesus, he asks him to follow me, he asks him, and then he says, but first, Jesus, let me go and bury my father. And Jesus says, let the dead go bury their own. If you don't understand what's happening right there, you can misread that. Say, man, that was real mean, Jesus. You roasted that guy. That's crazy. But what happens is in Jewish culture, what's happening here is a burial, a death of somebody, especially a father, supersedes anything else. It doesn't matter what tradition they got going on Passover. They would skip it. They would say, hey, we got to take care of the burial. That is so important in Jewish culture. And Jesus understood that. He said, let me tell you something. Hey, you need to go and take care of your dad. You need to go and take care of those family affairs. But let me tell you something. Everywhere you go, proclaim my name. And he sends him off. And this third guy that they interact with, right here in verse 61. And another also said, I will follow you, Lord, but first permit me to say goodbye to those at home. But Jesus said to him, no one after putting his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of God. How many of you guys ever stuck your foot in your mouth when someone said, hey, what are you doing on Saturday? You say, nothing. And they say, well, I need you to help me move. You say, oh. And now you got backpedal out of that, right? It's like, oh, well, I got to check with my wife. My kid's got a thing, I got this thing on my foot, it really hurts. I won't be much use to you. I got a truck, right? I've been a victim of truckism more times in my life than people just want me for my truck. They're like, hey, you still got that truck? No, right? So when people ask me now, what are you doing on Saturday? They say, wow, what you got going on? So, oh, we're having a moving party. That's okay. No, but a lot of times what happens is we'll get in the midst of it, we'll commit to it, and they say, wow, well, this is what it all entails. We say, oh, I don't want to be a part of that. No, and you do your best to backpedal out of it. And that's what Jesus notices about this guy. He says, but first, let me go home. Let me have this going away party because I don't know when I'm going to be back. And you know what? I really got to settle up some of my bank accounts. And you know what? My identity got stolen about 7 months ago. And I'd hate for that really to kind of mess up, Jesus Inc. I'd hate for my name to be a part of that. And all of a sudden, we got financial problems, Jesus. Judas is mad at me. We don't want that. And Jesus says, you know what, man? Don't even worry about it. As the guy begins to make up excuses, he begins to make up excuses on what it would take to go all in with him. See, a lot of times we want to go all in. We see that it looks good, but there's things that are holding us back. There's things that are keeping us from going all in. Jesus said, hey, man, look, I gave my entire life for you. I died for you. Would you live for me? And we say, all right, Lord, I want to go all in for you. But the moment we begin to look at what that looks like, we begin to get scared. We begin to pull away. There's 4 things I believe that keep us from going all in. I want you to write these things down as we go through them. The first one is this right here. Is past hurts. Past hurts. You say, well, what does that mean, past hurts? Things that have happened to you in your past. Things that you're hanging on to that hurt you from long ago. One day we were working outside here at the church, And this lady rolled up in her truck. I don't know if she saw a brown dude doing manual labor. She's like, hey, you own a lawn service? I was like, hey, look, I'm a pastor. So she just rolls up, profiling me. And she rolls up. She says, hey, how much you charge to trim trees? I was like, not enough, right? So I was like, I just began to talk with her. She's like, you go to this church? I said, yeah, I go to this church. She said, oh, is it a non-denominational church? I said, yeah, non-denominational, spirit-filled church, absolutely. And she says, oh, okay. I said, we're a small group-based church. And she said, oh, never mind. I said, well, what do you mean, never mind? What is that about? She said, oh, no. I had a small group leader. I won't do that again. I was like, what do you mean you won't do that again? She says, no. I just began to talk to her. I said, well, lady, what do you mean you ain't going to do that again? She said, nope, my small group leader, I shared some things that were happening with my family. She put in an email to the whole church and let everybody know. My family was ostracized, and my son was struggling with some mental health stuff, and the church ended up being a place where we couldn't go anymore. She's like, so I will never do small group again. She said, you make sure you tell your small. I said, whoa, lady, look. I said, hey, just because you had a bad experience doesn't mean that they're all bad. Doesn't mean that that's it at all. See, I know Tony and Amy Thomas have the Brooks in their small group. And I know when Mr. Brooks, we did a video with him for Miracle Week and talk about the miracle that had happened on his insides. He had a crazy surgery. He stood up and testified. Said, let me tell you something. If it wasn't for my small group, my spiritual family that was there with me during one of my most difficult times, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be there. See, our past hurts keep us away from things like that. See, a lot of times we let our offense with the middleman contaminate our relationship with the supplier. We let our offense with somebody here in church affect our relationship with Jesus. I got a friend that I served with, man, as we started just serving Jesus with everything that we had. He let an offense get in the way. He walked away from Jesus and hadn't been back since. So how in the world are you letting that relationship with some middleman, some guy that represents God, affect your relationship with the one who created you? This is what it says right here in Proverbs chapter 17, verse 9. It says, love prospers when a fault is forgiven, but dwelling on it separates close friends. It says that, man, love prospers when a fault is forgiven. But how many guys dwell on that thing? You should begin to think about it. Think about it. It says that dwelling on it separates close friends. The second thing is this right here, flirting with the glory days. Come on, some of you men remember what it was like playing football and you ran that 440, right? Come on, now you run that 40 in 4 minutes, right? And it takes you 4 days to recover. And so it's that 4-4-4, And some of you ladies, you still have those jeans that you used to fit on. You call them nose jeans, and those are your gold jeans. And those are the jeans that one day you'll fit into again. Had it not been for the 3 babies, had it not been for this, had it not been for that, I'd fit into those jeans, right? And so you keep them as like a goal. It's like one day I'll be there. You keep them like in a little shrine. You know what I'm saying? Don't touch those jeans, right? And so a lot of times we flirt with our past and what our sin used to be like. We'll be sitting down watching the game and say, my gosh, I remember one of the best times watching the game was sitting in the bar drinking a beer. And you begin to reminisce on what that was. And it's so dangerous to begin to flirt with that. To begin to, when you're having a spat with your wife, all of a sudden say, hey man, well, it wasn't like this with that girl I dated in college. Had it not been for that one thing, maybe I could have laid my pride down. And let me tell you something, we didn't fight like we did here. And we begin to flirt with what used to be, what we call the glory days, how it used to be. We begin to flirt with that. So much so that 20 to 30% of all divorces now involving infidelity involve Facebook. See, before, 15 years ago, there was no connection back to your past. But now, man, you can do a quick internet search. You can find anybody you want to. So 20 to 30% of all divorces that are involved fidelity now involve Facebook. So much so that there are lawyers that are experts in Facebook. They're like Facebook forensic investigators. They specialize in cyber forensics because they're having to go back and scour messages and posts and all sorts of stuff so they can gather all the legal evidence to decipher what's going to happen with this divorce. See, guys, we got to stop flirting with the days of old. Those days are gone. The Lord's got something new for you. We have to go for it. We have to go say, Lord, look, man, what I thought was good, let me tell you something. What you got for me now is going to be even better. We have to go for it. It's what it says here in James chapter 4, verse 4. It says, you adulterers, do you not know that friendship or flirting with the world is hostility towards God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Man, don't flirt with it. Don't flirt with it. The third thing is this right here, is sin. Man, it keeps us from going all in. It's sin. It's like, there's no way I could do that. I still struggle with this. I still struggle with that. Let me tell you something. You will still struggle with that. You will still struggle with this as long as you keep it hidden and you don't get it out. I struggled with a sickness about a month and a half ago. I went to the doctors. I felt like I was dying. I WebMD'd it. I Googled it. I said, WebMD, tell me what's wrong with me. It said, there's 3 things that could possibly be wrong with you. Number 1, you got a cold. I said, well, duh. Number 2, you have the bubonic plague. I was like, nah. Number 3, you're suffering from cancer. I was like, oh, no, heck no. I didn't know those things, WebMD. And so I go to the doctor. I book my appointment with the doctor, and I'm sitting in there. And doctor's appointments are always pretty awkward, right? Because they walk you to the room, they weigh you first, and then she judges you. You know, it's like muscle makes more than fat, right? So I was like, leave me alone. Leave me alone. So I'm standing there, and I go to the room, and, they're taking my temperature, and they scan my thing, and they're like, oh, you're healthy. And I was like, except for that, I'm sick. That's why I'm here. If I was healthy, I wouldn't be here. So I'm sitting there in the doctor's office, and then they leave you by yourself for like 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm sitting there, and it's like, look, if I'm going to sit here for 5 minutes, I'm going to be productive. So I'm going to become an expert in the inner ear. So I begin to read through everything in the inner ear and study the diagram and the model. And, yeah, it hurts right there. Yep, that's exactly right. And so I begin to look at it, and then from there, you sit on the things, like just have a seat up on the table there. Well, they put the tissue paper on it, and so it doesn't matter what you do. And so I just feel real awkward, and I was running a fever, so my palms were sticking to it, and I was like, dude, this just looks gross, man. So the doctor comes in there, and the doctor opens the door. He's like, hey, Mr. Peña, how are you doing? And that's like the most terrible question to lead into with a patient that is sick. You know what I'm saying? It was like, how are you doing? Terrible. Doing bad. I'm about to pay you a lot of money to tell me what's wrong with me. Why would you ask me that question? I feel terrible. And we sit there, and he begins to ask questions, how are you sleeping? No, I'm not doing that. Or how's your breathing? I'm not doing that either. And so he began to ask me all these questions in order so that he can properly diagnose me. He needs to know what's wrong with me so he knows what kind of medicine to give me. He doesn't want to give me, dental pain medicine. Are you struggling with the flu? Well, here's some Oragel. See, call me in 6 weeks if this don't work. No, it doesn't do that. But a lot of times, that's the way we approach our small group leaders and our pastors. We'll come in there and we begin to ask them questions. Well, how are you doing? Well, that's none of your business. Okay, sorry. Well, how's your marriage doing? Oh, my gosh, how dare you ask that question? Can you imagine if I were to do that with a doctor? He comes in and says, hey, do you have any pain right here? Don't touch me. Could you imagine? He's like, all right, I'm just going to put my hand on your abdomen. I'm going to push. Do not touch me. Like no way. There's no way he'd be able to properly diagnose you if you're not honest with him. See, the only power a secret has is that it remains a secret. The moment a secret is out, it loses all of its power. Loses all of its power. So the moment you begin to be honest with people, and you say, hey, look, man, these are the things that I'm struggling with. The Lord can say, all right, cool, great. We can move you past that. There's no longer a fear that's holding you back. This is what it says right here. In James chapter 5, verse 16, it says, therefore, confess your sins one to another and pray for one another so that you may be healed. In order to be healed of something, you have to first be sick of something. As he's alluding to, he said, hey, man, your sins are making you spiritually sick. You need to confess those things one to another so we can properly diagnose you. We get you treated and we get you on the road of health. Not so we can gossip about you, not so we can know about you. No way, man. We want to see you healthy. Number 4 is this right here. It's comparison. You begin to compare yourself to others. You begin to compare yourself to your small group leader. Well, man, my small group leader, they're so good. Oh, my gosh, they're so amazing. There's no way I could ever lead a small group like them. You begin to compare yourself to Pastor Adam. Say, there's no way I could ever preach like Pastor Adam. There's no way. There's no way I could ever lead worship like Lance. Oh, he's so good. And the way he dances on stage, oh, so amazing. I don't know if you're jealous of his dance moves, but anyways, just the way he sings and plays that guitar. And you would say that. You say, oh, my gosh, let me tell you something. Do you not think we serve a God that's big enough? If he needed another Adam McCain, he would have made one? Do you not think that if he needed another Lance Byler, he would have made one? Let me tell you something. You know what he did make? He made you. He needs you to be you. He needs you to finally say, you know what, I'm going all in. Let me tell you something. The gifts that are locked inside of you are so needed for the body The thing is, you're too busy wondering and speculating what cards everybody else is holding to look at the great cards that you have right in your hand. Lord saying, hey, man, I need you to play those cards right now. I need you to play those cards for such a time as this. I need you to play those cards, man. Quit speculating what everybody else has. You need to play the hand that you're given because that's the best hand that you have. Guys, I'm telling you, man, if we're going to go all in for Jesus, we got to stop comparing ourselves to others. There's no way. You can't do it. You can't do it. When we first started Church on the Hill, we had, Pastor Adam said, I want you to take over the youth ministry. And what he meant by take over the youth ministry, he meant start it, because there was nothing. And so we're like, okay, here we go. We're going to start this. What does it look like? And so we began to make it from scratch. We called it the Ezekiel Project because we didn't know if it was going to work. And a project sometimes can remain unfinished, right? So I gave myself an out, so it's always built in there. But as we begin to start it, the director of the School of Youth comes to our church. He oversees YFN. How intimidating that is. Like, oh my gosh, travels the nation, speaks. Our pastor used to be the premier youth speaker. And as I began to start and pioneer what the Ezekiel Project would look like, it was so intimidating. Oh my gosh, wondering what other experts thought. But let me tell you something. They didn't have the skills and the giftings that it took to start something where I started it. Which is not that I'm something special, but let me tell you something. The Lord put a desire in me to plow, a desire in me to just take ground and to make it happen with no resources, with limited resources. Let me tell you something. We ended up building something that's actually pretty cool. And I look back on it now, I said, Lord, had I just sat there and compared myself to everybody else, I wouldn't have moved. I wouldn't have moved. I would have sat there and blamed and said, I don't have what they have. There's no way I could do that. I don't have what they have. I can't do that. I looked at what we had and said, this is all we got. We make the best of what we've got. And let me tell you something. The moment you put that in the Lord's hands, he takes it and multiplies it exponentially. God, there's 3 things that I want you guys to do. If we're going to go all in, there's 3 practical steps that we got to take. I want you to write these 3 things down. The first one is this right here, is you got to join the cause. It's easy to critique the team on Monday after Cowboys loss than it is when you're in the middle of it. I love listening to 105 through the Fan on a Friday, right before a Cowboys game, and then a Monday after Cowboys loss. I love it. Because the same guys that call in saying the Cowboys are the best, they're going to win, are the Cowboys are the same fans that come in calling in on Monday saying, get rid of Zeke, he's terrible. And so I'm like, this is the best. I love it. And because everybody's an armchair quarterback on Monday. Everyone wants to critique it once it's all done. Oh, well, if I was there, it would have been done like this. If I was there, it would have been done like that. Let me tell you something. You're not on the team. You don't know what it cost. You have no idea what it was really like practice Monday through Saturday, prepping, studying the playbook, making it happen. You have no idea. The moment you join the cause, you got some skin in the game. The moment you join the cause, you begin to say, all right, look, this is the way it looks. It wasn't like the way I saw it. Let me tell you something. If we're going to go in, you got to get on the team. You got to join the cause. You got to get plugged in to what we're doing. A lot of times we don't do that because of a selfish mentality. We say, well, how's it going to serve me? How's it going to benefit me? Let me tell you something. When Jesus says that the foxes have no holes, have holes, and the birds have nests, but the Son of Man, let me tell you something. It will cost you something. It will. It will be a sacrifice. Well, I had an opportunity to go on a fishing excursion, something that I wanted to do my entire life. We went up to the boundary waters of Minnesota. The space in between the United States and Canada, there's a bunch of little ponds, lakes, things. And we had to go there, and we packed everything in, and we packed everything out. We did these things called portage. I had no idea what a portage was until this day. And if you hear the word portage and something you're going to do, just run from it. Don't do it. Just don't do it. It's a terrible thing. You have to put all your stuff in a canoe and carry it across land into more water and then again more land. It was terrible. It was horrible. We got there, and we're fishing. And I'd never done this before. I came in as prepared as I thought I could be, and I brought some pants, and I brought some water boots. My water boots were like mid-calf. He's like, no, you need full knee. I was like, what is this? This is like freaking Bear Grylls. Like, oh, my gosh, I didn't sign up for that. I just want to catch some fish. That's all I wanted to do. And we're sitting there, and me being a novice, I had gotten all my pants wet. All my socks were soaked. I had swam in the water more times than I should have been. And so we're on the last day there. And my buddy said, hey, man, we need to keep your last pair of pants dry, your socks dry. We just stay in the canoe. Don't even worry about it. Every time I get out, something bad would happen. And so we're standing there, and he's like, all right, we come into this waterfall. And he's like, I got to push you. I got to pull you across this thing. Just hang in there and keep your balance. I was like, all right. So he begins to pull the canoe across. And he's doing it, he's going backwards, and there's this log that's sticking out. And the moment I begin to yell at him and say, hey, watch out, he trips and falls and goes down this waterfall. And so I'm so scared that the canoe is going to go down on top of him. I had to make a decision in the midst of it. I said, you know what? I got to either get in the game right now, or my friend, he's potentially going to get hurt. So I hopped out and said, you know what? I don't care if I get wet. I don't care what it looks like. My selfishness has now caused someone else pain. So I got out, rescued him. I was like, now you're the one that's wet. You're making fun of me that's all wet. But I felt so bad. But you know what? I had to get in there. That's the same thing, guys. We got to join the cause. We need you. We need you. We got so many people coming to church, and we're not building small group leaders fast enough to take them all in. We need you. You got to join the cause. You got to go all in. This is what Scripture says right here. It says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. That's out of Matthew chapter 6, 19 and 20. It says, man, lay your treasures up in heaven. Everything else here, you know what? It's temporary. Man, lay your treasure up in heaven. Come on, let's join the cause. The second thing is this right here. Remove the excuses. If you're going to go on, you got to remove the excuses. There will always be a good reason not to. Always. Always. Hey, you should join the Grow Check. Start on Sunday nights. Come on. Oh, no, my kids got to go to bed early because they got school the next day. Yeah, that's a good excuse not to. Why don't you start a small group? Oh, my house is too small. My husband works late. That's a good reason not to. See, there will always be a good reason not to, but we have to remove the excuses. My wife and I served as full-time missionaries for about 5 years at the beginning of our marriage, and we would travel all throughout Latin America, Colombia, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Mexico. And one day when we were there, we're hanging out with the missionaries. We're going to go to this brand new spot, and we're hanging out with the missionaries and say, hey, look, I just want to prepare you. It's nothing like you've helped at before. It's nothing. And I said, well, what do you mean? They're like, well, they actually meet in a dump. It's like, what do you mean? They have a building at the dump? Like, no. There's no buildings, no electricity. There's nothing. So we get there, and I'm doing my best to prepare myself for what I'm about to see. I'd never been anything like that before. As we get there, we find ourselves in the line of the trash trucks going to the dump. And we pull in there, and we see the pastor, and he's dressed like a pastor would be, just nice pants and shirt and stuff like that. And we get to talk to him, and I just begin to interact with him through a translator. And I said, how long have you been doing this? He says, we've been doing this 5 years. And I said, wow, 5 years. I said, what prompted you to do this? He said, well, we used to pastor, and we're still affiliated with the church just down the road in another city. He said, but we would have all these people from the dump come to our church, and it was so hard for them to come. He said that we just said, me and my wife said, you know what? We're just going to start something at the dump. I said, well, what does that even look like? He says, you're looking at it. He says, we just get the people here, they sit down, and we preach the word. We bring them stuff, food, water. We do our best to give them clothes and things like that, but we just minister to the people here. I said, well, where do they come from? He said, what do you mean, where do they come from? I said, well, is there a city that's close by? He says, no. This is where they live. They live here at the dump. And as we begin to call them out, he says, we're going to go get some people. And we begin to walk around and call these people. We're walking in the middle of trash piles, giant trash piles. And we're walking out there, and people begin to come out to this area that he had. And we just begin to share the gospel with them, just to be nice with them, play with the kids. And all of a sudden, we start our service, and we begin to share and just begin to tell testimonies, and everybody's intrigued to see blonde-haired people. You know what I'm saying? When you're in Latin American country, they're just intrigued to see blonde. They touch your hair and all stuff. I don't have that problem. I look just like them. But, but they would be intrigued to see blonde-haired people. So they would just come and sit. And about halfway through what we were doing, these trucks began to roll through. And all of a sudden, half of the people got up and left. Like, what did we say something wrong? What's going on? It's like, no. Those are the trash trucks. They come, and whenever they come, the people go to get the newest stuff that's off the trash truck. They go through there, and they'll go pick up the stuff that's fresh from the homes. Begin to ask this pastor, oh my gosh, man, why are you doing this? He says, you know what? We just saw the need. See, there's so many excuses on why that man shouldn't be doing what he's doing. He don't have a building. There's no electricity. When it rains, they don't have service. It's dusty. It's noisy. It's all of those things. But the man said, you know what? I see the need. I see the need. He said, you know what? Me and my wife, we're just going to go for it. They removed every excuse that they could have had, and they just went for it. You know, let me tell you something. Those people, they don't have any money to tithe. They don't have anything like that. But you know what they do have? They have the joy of the Lord. And it's given to them by a man that said, you know what? I see worth in you. Jesus died for you. He values you, and I'll see that in you also. The third thing is this right here. If we're going to go all in, third and final thing is we have to invest daily. You have to invest in it daily. You have to go after God daily. You have to read your Bible daily. You have to pray daily. It's a daily investment. See, you don't see the return on an investment right away. Sometimes you don't see the return on investment 2 years later. But you know what? You have to invest daily. Right as me and Myrna were getting serious, and Myrna's my wife, right as we were getting serious in marriage, I love to hunt and fish. I love to hunt. And this weekend's opening day dove season. And I like to hunt, right? And so right as we were getting together, I had saved up my money. I was saving every week. I'd put money away. And I was going to buy a shotgun, a Benelli Extrema 2 shotgun, right? I was going to buy it. I had saved my money for it. And I was watching that account grow as I was getting enough money to buy the shotgun that I so wanted. And then I remember hanging out with Myrna. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can marry this woman. Actually, I think I am going to marry this woman. And I looked at my bank account, and in my ring fund, I had zero money. But my shotgun fund was fully funded. I was like, well, I mean, here goes like another year of saving. I said, you know what? I hung out with her one more time. I said, yeah, she's it. She's the one. But before I could make a proper decision, I had to go visit the shotgun one more time. So I made a trip over to Academy. I had to make sure I was doing the right thing. It's a big investment. And so I go and I hold that gun, and it whispers to me, and I whisper back to it. And as I put it away, I whispered, one day. And I put it back on the shelf. And that Italian beauty is still waiting for me there. But let me tell you something. I went that day. I went to the jewelry store and I bought a ring. I bought it down. I said, you know what? Everything I got, I'm putting in it. I bought that ring down. And about 3 weeks later, I proposed to my wife. See, I made an investment daily. I made an investment. And I said, you know what? I'm going to put that ring on your finger. And I'm going to invest in our relationship. And let me tell you something. The investment that I made initially 11 and a half years ago has proven itself and grown exponentially. I got 2 kids, 2 great-looking kids, got a beautiful marriage, an amazing wife. But you know what? That daily investment. Let me tell you something. As you begin to invest in people, you might not see it come to fruition right away. You know what? They might leave your small group, and you see them 6, 7 years later. Say, you know what? Had you not invested in my wife and I when you did, we wouldn't be together. Had you not prayed for my son when we needed it, let me tell you something, he might not be alive today. Had you not prayed over that job that I got, had you not prayed over my healing, had you not done this, had you not done that, had you not invested in me, probably wouldn't be the man or woman I am today. Let me tell you something, going all in takes a daily investment. But it's an investment, let me tell you something, that will prove worthwhile. So what it says here, and we'll close with this. In Luke chapter 9, verse 23, he says, then he said to them all, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. See, daily, we work it out. Our salvation, we work it out. Let me tell you something. Going all in is a daily investment.